That's great. I like to think no one is coming to save you. It's up to you. Anything you want to happen,
Yeah, exactly. And the concept is really like you cannot sell anything to anyone before you buy yourself. Meaning,
right?
before you show
Mhm.
up in the world, dating, on interviews, as a parent, as a spouse, if you don't fully buy into who you are and know who you are, your values, your
Mm,
stories, your truth, then you cannot go out and sell that person. Then whoever you're gonna show
mm.
up as is not you.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, I I think it's easy for people to get lost these days. There's so much stimulation constantly in our environment, and like you mentioned, there's so many voices telling you what to do the whole time you're growing up, and trying to decide what to do with yourself, who to who to become, and all this. Everybody's telling you the whole time, and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why the first thing in my coaching, is to connect with yourself. The absolute first thing I ask
Mhm.
anyone to do is take time off every day to undistractedly sit with themselves.
Mm,
And some people find it very hard because they never
mhm,
done it. They've never sat without listening to anything,
mm,
plugging in any, like whether it's music or a podcast or TV or people or anything, any impressions.
mhm.
If you if you exclude all that and sit with your own thoughts, that's when you connect with yourself. And can you
Yeah.
imagine how many people call don't even take time to do that?
Yeah, people in the modern world get sucked into this comfort zone too.
Yeah.
They don't want to do anything that makes them uncomfortable. And if you think about it, everything that every improvement in your life and all the growth in your life happens outside the comfort zone. So why wouldn't, if you want those things, then why would you want to be in the comfort zone at all?
Yeah, because it's comfortable, because it's known, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of cozy, because you know what to expect, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But there's no excitement there.
Mhm,
There's nothing there that makes you feel alive. There's nothing there that's gonna
mhm.
feed your constant need for growth, because that's
Yeah,
one of the
yeah,
thing that feeds the soul is when a person grows.
yeah, yeah, it's true, and I think it's tied to biology too, because
Yeah.
if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yes. 100%. Look at
One or
kids.
the other.
Yeah, they're constantly growing and they're not asking how. They're just growing. They're just,
Yeah,
evolving
right.
as life is coming to them.
All right, great. Welcome everybody to another episode of Define Your Purpose, and I am super excited today to be speaking with Adele Kamel Whitley, and she is a life transformation coach, speaker, and moderator, um, and very much a kind of along the lines of my own coaching. It seems like we have a lot in common. Adele, thanks for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you, Karl. This is super fun. And thank you also for the work that you're doing in the world with the podcast and your own coaching.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks. Um, I always like to get an idea of how people got into what they were doing, and what got them started. Um, I mean, I started coaching myself when I was pretty young. I was teaching swimming, and so that was my first experience of helping someone overcome a fear and improve themselves, and so um, I'm just kind of wondering what your experience was like when you were starting out.
Yeah, I think quite similar to you. My first coaching, or I would say I'm the oldest of five. So being the oldest
Oh,
of five, yeah, you automatically take on that role of a,
okay. Yeah.
mentor coach, leader. But also, just like you, I used to play handball and then went on to train teams of handball and
Mm,
continued down that road. Like parallel of everything I did, I was always coaching something, whether it's on my free
right.
time or as work. Went on to coaching sales teams, had my
Mm,
own companies where I had to coach my own employees. And on and off, I was telling you just before that I was on and off conforming to to what society and expectations and parental
mhm,
things, and then back to,
right.
what do I really want to do with my life.
Mm,
So I
mm,
already went into like coaching one-on-one on this sense that I'm doing now, mid 20s, and speaking as well. But as I was telling you before, I also talked myself out of it, because of the inner voice in my head that I was too young. Like, who am I to
mm,
coach people? Who am I to speak in front of audiences of hundreds of people about life? And yeah, but here we are. Some years later, I thought I'm not too young anymore. The world needs this. I had to go through my journey in order to sit here and talk about what I'm talking about and coaching about today. So yeah,
mm,
that's how I got started.
right. Yeah, it sounds kind of similar to I got to a point in my working for someone else that I just kind of decided that I wasn't going to get to do the things in life that I wanted to do, and needed to find another way. So it sounds kind of like the conclusions you came to there.
Absolutely. There is only one way in life, Carl, and that's your way.
Right? Yeah. Very good. Right on. So, what was it like getting started then, with your business? You know, I mean, that can be really rocky your first year or two. How did that go for you?
So, like everything, if you're prepared, then nothing that comes will ever, knock you off, or at least what you're prepared for. I had
Mhm,
run businesses before, so I was
mm,
more or less prepared both on the financial side, but also on the mental side of what was to come, but also
mm,
prepared of what I need to put in terms of work to make it happen. So, coming like from the
mm,
business side, I knew what to do.
mhm,
From the result side and from the fulfillment side and from working with people, it is one of the best thing I've ever chosen to do in my whole life.
mm,
Working with
mm,
people, helping people, and
mhm.
transforming their life and getting them connected with themselves again. It's, how they say, what would you do if time and money wasn't an object? Like, what would you do for free? I would do this for free.
Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that definitely. I mean, I really have always wanted to help people, and coaching is such a direct way to do that.
Yeah.
I um, I spent some time in the IT world, and helping in healthcare with computers, and it's a very indirect way to help people compared to coaching. And when I first started coaching professionally, that was something that really impressed me, was how direct it was. And I really love that, because I really love meeting people and working with people.
Yeah, same.
So, what are some of your projects like now that you're, I mean, do you have courses, or how do you go about your coaching methodology?
Yeah. So yeah, I started my company. It's called By Yourself, and the whole
Mm,
concept with By Yourself and the mission with By Yourself is for you to fully buy into you and your life,
mm,
meaning you choosing your stories, you choosing your belief, you choosing your values, you living a life where you show up from from inside of you and who you authentically are, rather than taking on all these layers of expectations and society and peer group and whatever you've learned growing up, and going out in the world as that person that's most of the time disconnected from who you really are.
mm,
So By Yourself, the whole mission with By Yourself is to bring that awareness out there. And the way I go about it is I do one-to-one coaching because I love it. And I'm currently also working on writing on my book. It's called By Yourself. And
nice.
I also believe that I cannot get this message out myself fast and big enough.
Mm,
So other ways I'm doing it is being on podcasts like this, speaking on stages, and my mission, whether it's through me or not through me, is for By Yourself to be a concept where you ask yourself, like, am I buying myself right now? or have I sold myself, or have I taken on a truth that's not mine?
Mm.
That's what I'm working on in different angles, and the whole thing is for you to live your authentic life, just like you do with your coaching.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great. I like to think no one is coming to save you. It's up to you. Anything you want to happen,
Yeah, exactly. And the concept is really like you cannot sell anything to anyone before you buy yourself. Meaning
right?
before you show
Mhm,
up in the world, dating, on interviews, as a parent, as a spouse, if you don't fully buy into who you are and know who you are, your values, your
mm,
stories, your truth, then you cannot go out and sell that person. Then whoever you're gonna show
mm.
up as is not you.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, I I think it's easy for people to get lost these days. There's so much stimulation constantly in our environment, and like you mentioned, there's so many voices telling you what to do the whole time you're growing up, and trying to decide what to do with yourself, who to who to become, and all this. Everybody's telling you the whole time, and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why the first thing in our coaching, in my coaching, is to connect with yourself. The absolute first thing I ask
Mhm,
anyone to do is take time off every day to undistractedly sit with themselves.
mm,
And some people find it very hard because they never
mhm,
done it. They've never sat without listening to anything,
mm,
plugging in any, like whether it's music or a podcast or TV or people or anything, any impressions.
mhm.
If you exclude all that and sit with your own thoughts, that's when you connect with yourself. And can you
Yeah,
imagine how many people call don't even take time to do that?
yeah, yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
I've even met people who are uncomfortable with it.
absolutely. Oh yeah, they're
Mhm,
afraid of doing that because
mhm,
oh, all of a sudden you're gonna hear your own voice.
mhm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of scary because then you have to take responsibility for that too.
mhm. Yeah. I think, that's something that makes journaling really interesting, that a lot of people say that when they do enough journaling, that their own voice becomes, like an instruction almost, to tell them what they need to do
Yeah,
in order to accomplish what they should.
yeah,
Um, and I think that kind of goes back to purpose, and finding your purpose in life. And I think nobody can tell you that that it's something that you have to figure out on your own.
yes, no, absolutely. Journaling is one of my absolute favorite tools, and I'd even go so far and say honest journaling. Because
Yeah.
even when you sit there with your own journal, you can show up inauthentically.
Right.
So I always
Mhm,
emphasize on the
mhm,
honest
yeah.
journaling.
Mm,
Like it's not powerful until you're there with your own thoughts, raw, naked, truth. That's when the power in journaling comes out. Otherwise, it's
mm,
still going to be filtered from whatever layers you've put on growing
yeah,
up. Yeah. And
yeah.
then it doesn't make sense. Then you're just lying to yourself
Mhm,
anyway.
mhm.
But that's also why you
Right.
sometimes need to work with a coach because it could be
Mhm,
scary, it could be uncomfortable. What comes up? How do you deal with that? So, many people kind of know what will come up sometimes, sometimes not. But if you're left with everything on your own, what do you do with all the information now? What do you do with all the emotions now?
mhm. Right. Yeah. People ask me lots of times what the difference between a coach and a therapist is, and I think that's a pretty good question, because there are some crossovers, but I I think therapists are, kind of clinically removed from you being the best person that you can. They're kind of like, well, who am I to say what you should do? And they're not interested in helping you figure it out either.
Hmm. Yeah.
and
Yeah, I
and
get
coaches
that.
are more about performance and high
Hmm.
performance.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get that asked quite a lot as well. And the way I like to see it is therapists worked a lot also in the past. So they're,
Yeah,
go back and they heal past experiences and the root cause of a lot of things that's, showing up in your life today with trauma. While I think coaching, even if it's really important to work through the past experiences, so it doesn't, one thing doesn't have to exclude the other, but like coaching is also more forward thinking. So from
Mhm.
what we have
Yeah,
today, how is the situation
yeah.
today? Where do you want to be tomorrow? And how do we work towards that?
Mhm,
And in there, of course, there can be bits of therapy. Like if you're stuck in a thinking and in a belief system that comes from your childhood, then unless we work that out, we can't move to the forward to the future. But therapy, I would say, stay there and maybe not help you go from A to B. They just stay in the past and uncover all that and heal with all that.
mhm.
That's at least the distinction that I have.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good point as well. Definitely. And I really like the to focus on the future. I'm a big believer in your ability to everybody's ability to manifest. It's just that people think use it incorrectly and don't understand it. That, but I really believe that your mind it can get you anywhere you want if you're just able to focus on it and you keep focusing on it long enough. It's that people don't think about where they want to be long enough to start putting the pieces together to get there. But your mind will do that automatically for you if you are able to continually focus on your goals, like kind of like race car drivers. You know, they'll have the Formula One drivers every week think about what it's like to go to the victory circle and win, and that visualization is critical and well documented that you have to have that to get to where you want to be. And I
Fully.
think people don't understand the power of that.
Yeah, I fully agree. I also think that people sometimes don't know what's possible. Many
Mm.
stay
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
fixed mindset that we always talk about, in the sense that
Hmm.
this is who I am today, and they see the possibilities from their current version, not
Hmm.
knowing that within seconds you can change to whatever you want to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
You just need to start
Yeah.
taking the action towards that. So many
Right.
people, think just because I've lived my life like this up until now, this is how the rest of my life is going to be, with this, like these capabilities and these skills, and this is, but no, we have neuroplasticity and the growth mindset. We can do anything. We just need to
Yeah.
decide, like you said, and then take steps towards that. And that's possible. And that's what
Mhm.
we as coaches bring out in a person. Like, you are under no obligation to stay the way and the same person as you are today. That can change.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And even just as recently as this year, science is finding out more about neuroplasticity. You know, we thought for so long that your brain cells only died, and your brain was once it was matured, it was a solid state, and and that was your set an IQ number, and that really couldn't be further from the truth. I
Exactly.
think that your brain keeps growing and you can generate brain cells, and IQ is a measure of potential, not really intelligence.
Yes,
And your
fully agree.
intelligence can change
Yeah,
too.
100%.
So I think it's very interesting if you follow this stuff. There's a lot of developments now around consciousness that we're just figuring out what a massive quantum computer your brain is.
Oh, absolutely.
So no, sorry, not to get too sidetracked here. I I wonder what are maybe some of the victories you might have had in your coaching that that you've done with clients that you've really um, felt good about or felt were really significant. Do you have any stories that you can share?
Oh, I have many stories. But I think what's if we would just tie everything together in what's really happening is that many people come to a coach and they want to maybe get a new job, or and they have
Mhm.
these external goals, which
Right.
is super important to have, no doubt. But I
Mhm.
think what I like to do, and what we work a lot with, is the inner game. Is to
Mm.
equip
Yeah.
make sure that
Mhm.
you as a person get so resourceful because you have everything you need within you. Everything is already within you. You're just not able to see that or even tap into that resources within yourself. So if
Mhm.
I can get you to a point where you are able to peel off all these stories and all their inner critics and all the external validation and everything that
Mhm.
you need from the external world, and can function from the internal world and show up as your most resourceful self, then whatever you want to take on in the
Mhm.
world is going to be possible. Whether it's a new job or you want a
Mhm.
new relationship, if everything comes from you and who you are and how you can tap into that force while you're developing, right? Because we're not fixed. If I can get you to that point, then my work is 100% done, in combination with, of course, setting like tangible goals and moving forward. So the
Mhm.
biggest transformations I've seen is when people doubt themselves, when people change perspectives on things. For example, reframing mistakes. Like I had a
Right.
person, she was dead scared of making mistakes, which made she
Mhm.
it just resulted that she didn't do anything in her life, because
Mhm.
everything could lead to a mistake. But if we can just
Yeah.
change the way we're looking at mistakes and failures and see them as part of it, like it's gonna happen. And
Mhm.
as I'm making mistakes, I'm also growing.
Right.
Those
Yeah.
like those breakthroughs are the best, because once people get to a point when they are getting, they get out of their own way with their thinking,
Mhm.
because everything starts with their
Mhm.
thinking, then they become unstoppable.
Mhm.
When you
Right.
create and when you show up from that place, then everything is possible.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's where I try to get them to, like to a point
Mhm.
where they don't get in their own way with their own thinking, because their own
Mhm.
thinking can be changed. And if we can
Mhm.
change our thinking, you can change your whole world.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Right
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
I I feel like sometimes what we're taught in school works against us as far as this you have to have A's and failure is bad, and you have to be perfect, this perfectionism, like you're saying with this, probably with this client, it leaks into everything and paralyzes you, that you can't even do anything because you're your own critic all the time. And
Yeah.
especially if you try something like writing,
Yeah.
it makes it impossible. So
Yeah. Yeah,
I,
because what do you learn in school? If you have a mistake in a test, you get a big fat red F,
right.
which stands for failure, right?
Yeah.
So it's just telling
Mhm.
you that you're not worthy as much if you don't get this 100% right. And it's always to the
Mhm.
next chase, from the first grade to the second grade to the fourth grade to the next university degree, and then to the next job, and then to the next title. They teach you
Mhm.
that it's always about the next chase. So what are you gonna, I totally with you. They're working totally against what we actually want to teach people, which is to accept and embrace who you fully are, learn along the way, and enjoy the journey. It's not
Mhm.
about the next chase. It's not about the next thing. It's not about getting a straight A. It's about who you're becoming along the way and how we can
Yeah.
grow. Yeah, but
Yeah.
of course, like what signals are we getting from the school system?
Mhm. Mhm. Right.
Yeah, when everything is based on these grades, instead of looking at your strengths and weaknesses and go, well, you're really good at writing.
Mhm.
Let's develop more of that. Let's encourage that, instead of looking, you have to be
Mhm.
good at everything. No one can be.
Yeah. 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 Especially when you move into the business world, it becomes really critical to develop your strengths and move ahead through failure and expect failure,
Yeah,
and know that you're either gonna learn or you're gonna win. So anything you go to do, you shouldn't be afraid of. Um, so I think those are important things that it takes some, I guess, some experience to learn.
it does. It does. I wish someone would have taught me that early on, to look at my failures as learnings and not just avoiding them, or try to avoid
Mhm.
them. But absolutely, I mean, there's a reason why there's the saying of failing forward. You can't
Mhm.
move forward
Yeah.
if you don't fail. There's no
Mhm.
there's no
Right.
growth if you don't fail.
Mhm.
So what's the
Yeah.
point?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, people, in the modern world get sucked into this comfort zone too. I
Yeah,
they don't wanna do anything that makes them uncomfortable, and if you think about it, everything that every improvement in your life and all the growth in your life happens outside the comfort zone. So why wouldn't, if you want those things, then why would you want to be in the comfort zone at all?
Yeah, because it's comfortable, because it's known, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind of cozy, because you know what to expect, right?
right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But there's no excitement there.
Mhm,
There's nothing there that makes you feel alive. There's nothing there that's gonna
mhm,
feed your constant need for growth, because that's
yeah,
one of the
yeah,
things that feeds the soul is when a person grows.
yeah, yeah. It's true, and I think it's tied to biology too, because
Yeah.
if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yes. 100%. Look at
One or
kids.
the other.
Yeah, they're constantly growing, and they're not asking, they're not asking how. They're just growing. They're just,
Yeah,
evolving
right.
as life is coming to them. And
Mhm.
they're not just going, nah, this feels weird. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna just stay 5 years old.
Right, right, yeah.
They
Yeah,
don't.
they naturally just wanna do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
They want to get to six. They
Mhm,
want to get to seven. They want to get to 10 with everything that comes with it.
mhm. Right. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, tie that to biology, like you were saying. It's part of being human.
Mhm, mhm. So, what do you see coming up for your practice and all, this year? I
So
mean, you
I
said your book is gonna be coming out when you finish that?
Yeah, when I finish that, that's another part. So I just moved forward the milestone, the deadline a little bit, so it's all
Okay,
good. But yeah, for by yourself, that's gonna be the next thing.
great.
Um, I'm also doing that with taking on my one-on-one clients. I only work with 10 one-on-one clients at a time, so there's
Okay.
always this
Mm,
constant flow of clients unless they continue. Speaking more, my whole thing is to get this message out there. By yourself
mm,
needs to get out in the hand of all the people, for people to understand that you can always live a life where you show up from your true authentic self. And you
mm,
will never ever be able to live a life that you're meant to live if you're constantly worried about what other people will feel or think about you.
mhm.
And that's
Yeah.
the message I want to get out there. Like, you
Mm,
need to show up
yes.
unapologetically as your true self, and be comfortable doing that. And you can. But that takes
Awesome,
courage.
awesome.
It
Yeah.
takes courage to be authentic. I mean, you must know that there
Mm,
works a lot of purpose and authenticity, like showing up as your
mm,
authentic self,
mhm,
especially if you have gone away from it for a while. It
mhm.
takes courage, because people will start questioning. People will say, you're changing. And, yes, we're supposed to change. But if people are around you are not, then that takes for you to be very strong and determined. And that also, when coaching comes in, for someone to be there as a supporter, and kind of, push you forward and guide you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Are there, maybe are there any other, lessons that come to mind right now that you may have found working with people or
Another huge thing that with many people, and I can have several people in my mind, but it's also values. I work
Mm,
a lot with values, and I work a lot with reconnecting people with themselves. It sounds weird, because you are,
mm,
body and soul, you're one package. But what
mhm,
happens many times is, as we're going on in life, meeting new people, taking on new beliefs and stories, and yeah, everything. If we don't question if we want to take these beliefs and stories and values and way of looking at life as our own truth, then there is a chance that we will automatically make them our own truth. So what I do is, I slow people down,
yeah,
and I start working, reconnecting them with themselves, and ask, what does your heart say? What is in your core? What's
mm,
your core values? And how does that now apply to your life? How can we start living from inside out, and not just being reactive for what's happening to us? How can we
right,
take charge of our life and being more intentional with how we show up from inside? And for that to happen, you need to be super clear on your values, and not only your values as a list of words. Also, how does those values show up in my life for me? We can
yeah,
have the same value, me and you, but they can mean different things for me and you. So knowing what they mean to you and what they don't mean to you, and how that applies in your life, is also super important. So those are some lessons that, when I've worked with people that's done that work, all of the sudden, when you connect the dots looking backwards, you go, everything becomes
mm,
clear. Why things were maybe resistant sometimes, why things were more flowing sometimes, why this felt good, why this felt bad. Because now you can start connecting them back to your values.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think people get really confused about their values too. They'll say that their health matters to them and then not make the healthy choices so many times, and then keep struggling with that. How do you help your clients to focus on making healthy choices and changing those habits?
Yeah, that's a great one. So, again, going back to the list of values, once you define your values and what they mean to you, then you also have to define who you are as a person.
Mm.
So, it's not about
Yeah.
habits in that sense. Yes, they are habits because you vote every day with your habits for the person you want to become. So,
Mm.
who do you want to become, right? That's that we start
Mhm.
in that part. So, who say, let's say you want to be a healthy person. So, what does a healthy person do? What choices does a healthy person do?
Mhm.
How does a healthy person show up? What characteristics do they have? So instead of attacking it from a willpower point of view, let's go directly to an identity.
Mm.
What
Yeah.
identity do you need to take on to show up as that, to have that, what a healthy person does, right? Has.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's how we work. So we start looking at who do I need to become? What are the what do we do on a daily basis? What are the choices, the characteristics, the thoughts, what do they think? What do they eat? How do they, yeah. Do you choose between the salad or the pizza? You
Mhm.
can always ask yourself, what would a healthy person do to
Mhm. Yeah.
embody the
Yeah.
habits of a healthy person, for example?
Mhm.
Another example is let's say that you used to smoke, but you don't want to smoke anymore. There's a
Mhm.
difference in how you approach this. If someone were to ask you for a cigarette, for example, you can either say, no, I'm trying to stop smoking, or I've stopped smoking, or you can say, I don't smoke. Two
Mm.
different ways of approaching it. I don't smoke means
Mm.
you're not a smoker, you've never been a smoker, you've already taken on the identity of a non-smoker.
Mhm.
Trying to quit, or I don't want to, I'm quitting, that still mean you're a smoker that's not smoking at the moment.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's like the self hears those things that you say about yourself, and you are creating your own reality just kind of by the words you use almost.
Yes. Yes. You just need to be that person. And
Mhm.
then how does
Mhm.
that person
Yeah.
show up?
Mhm.
By default, after a while, you start making those subconscious habits and decisions from that person. But you need to be very conscious in the beginning. That's
Yeah.
why you can't work on too many
Mm.
changes at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to be overwhelming. So you need to take like one thing or two things at a time and just literally embody the identity of that person.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
How
I
about
think
you? How do you work with that and habits? I'm interested to hear.
Well, I think that any time that all of your time is, you're either spending it or you're investing it.
Yeah.
So it, any anything you're doing is feeding one or the other. So what you do when nobody is around and it seems like it doesn't make a difference is actually where the difference lies.
100%. Absolutely.
And so I think if you can have that discipline, then you become that person that you want to be.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then that doesn't happen. So you constantly have the choice. Um, like every day, you have the choice again. So
Exactly. Every
you have
day you
to
have
be
this choice to
choosing.
show up.
So I think lists can be kind of helpful as far as realizing how you're spending your time. If, when people get honest about documenting that, if you look at how companies run themselves, like UPS, for example, will write down every single thing that the driver does throughout the
Yeah.
entire day and a great big list and how long everything takes. And you can do the same thing with your own life and overlook everything, that how you're spending all your time, and optimize that like you're your own company, because we're each one really are kind of like a micro
Yeah.
version of a company. It's all micro issues and macro issues. And so if you look
Yes.
at problems that people have, they're solved within groups. And if you look at problems that groups have, the solutions can frequently apply to the individual.
Absolutely. Fully agree.
So I think there's a lot of carryover there that you can get a lot of ideas about how to have success in a different area that maybe you're not currently, but it relates.
Mm.
So people will be really good at managing things at work because it's work, and then they don't even think about their own life on the same terms. But if they were to apply the same terms, they would find that managing their life is a lot easier, because that's why they're doing those things at work, to make it manageable.
Absolutely. It all comes to the systems, right? It all falls on the systems that you have.
Yeah.
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 Which is the habits. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I think it's that the habits then become your destiny, really. I mean,
Yeah.
so that's kind of the tough thing, I guess, for a lot of people to realize the impact of how you spend your time. It's really,
Yeah.
and if you can use it to your advantage too. I mean, it takes such little effort to become an expert once you realize the power of 20 minutes a day. I mean, you can learn to play an instrument within a year or two, really, if you just pick it up for 20 minutes a day.
Spot on.
20 minutes can turn into an hour. Um, and you can become an expert in any field just by reading for an hour a day. I think, if you keep doing that for 10 years, then you'll probably know more than just about anybody in that field.
100%. That's all it takes. I think I
Mhm,
read somewhere it takes like spending 15 minutes on something every day. Yeah. You're
mhm.
going to be way ahead of most people.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's just a matter of getting started. Just do 2 minutes of it. Just sit down and do 2 minutes of it and
Yeah.
start.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's how I think about some of that stuff.
Yeah. Thanks.
So, are there any other maybe techniques that you've picked up that you help your clients through? Maybe coaching techniques. I saw you did the Mind Valley. I was looking at that myself for a little while. I think that's a pretty good coaching school, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The exercises that you picked up there.
They're amazing. Yeah, one really good exercise that I think everyone can use every day is reframing.
Mm,
It's reframing the meaning. Like every
mm,
what the way I see it, or the way it is like everything is neutral. Nothing is good or bad or anything, like until we give it a meaning. And the meaning we give to anything, an event or whatever happens, is how we're gonna experience it. But if we give that event a
mm,
meaning, we can also give that event another meaning. So we can reframe whatever happened
mm,
to us
mhm,
and make that work for us instead of against us.
mhm.
So
Right.
just using the power of reframing anything
Mm,
is super, super powerful.
yeah.
So, for example, a quick example, like it's raining outside. Is raining good or bad? It's neither, depending on me, right? I can either say it's raining, it's a shitty day, I'm not going to be able to go outside, I'm going to get wet, life sucks.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Or I can
Right.
say it's raining, it's not been raining for some days, it's great for the air, some fresh air outside. I'll just put on a hood, a jacket
Yeah.
with the hoodie and go out and get some fresh air, and I'll get my walk anyway. It's a beautiful day.
Mhm. And you have a completely different day than the first person you mentioned.
Yeah. And just
Mhm,
because it's raining does
mhm.
not make your day good or bad. It's the meaning you give that it's
Yeah,
raining.
yeah, yeah.
So reframing is a super, super powerful
Mhm.
technique.
The
Another,
the power of intention, I've heard it called too.
yeah. Another one is to question the validity of what you believe. So, we're so conditioned from childhood and growing up into believing certain things.
Mhm,
But if we stop and question those beliefs, if we stop and question those stories, and if they're absolutely true, we will most likely figure out that they're not.
Mm.
They're again just a belief or story that someone has chosen to pass on to us, and we've taken them on as our truth. Now, if that's not serving us today, why don't we find another truth
Hmm.
that keeps us
Yeah.
unstuck?
Yeah. Right.
So that, I mean, I think if you can learn to use those two things, and
Mhm.
to move forward in your life and navigate through challenges and your own thinking, then you've gone a long way.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I would agree. It's
Yeah.
like a lot of asking why. Why am I
Yes.
doing this?
Yeah.
Why did I start doing this?
Why can't I do this?
Mhm.
Who
Right?
told me I can't? Based
Mhm.
on what? Is it true? No, most of the time it's not true. It's just true because someone told you they can't. It's their own limitations that they passed on to you.
Mhm.
But
Right.
you cannot 100% tell me this is true.
Mhm. Yeah, totally. It's exactly how it works. I agree. Well, this is a really interesting conversation. I really had fun talking with you today.
Yeah.
Um,
Same. You can tell I get totally wind up in questioning beliefs that we've been or stories that we've been passed on to.
yeah, yeah, good stuff. So if someone wanted to get a hold of you for one-on-one work, um, are you're on LinkedIn, of course. Where else would they look for you?
So my main way of communicating is on LinkedIn. It's
Okay.
Adele Kamel Whitley,
Mhm.
my full name. I'm there every day and I answer all the DMs. So I'm really happy to have a chat. And
Nice.
it's always going to be see if there's a fit or there's a match. But I'm super happy to have a conversation with whoever find this, whatever we talk about, interesting. And maybe they feel hit or triggered or it resonated with
Mhm.
yeah, it resonates. Please, you're so welcome to contact me.
Yeah, great, great. Who should contact you? What kinds of people?
So the most people that I work with is people that have come to a point in their life when they realize they come to this awakening of, oh, life must be more than this. Like
Mm.
I've thought that I needed to get this degree or get this title or get the money or buy the house or whatever.
Mhm.
They thought that this constant achievement accomplishment of achievements or ticking off the boxes was going to make them happy, and most of the time just
Mm.
realize that I don't know anymore what makes me happy, who I am. Life must be more than this. What can I do? How do I approach life? How do I buy myself? How do I start connect with myself again and live life from that place?
Mm.
So many of my
Mm.
clients are super
Great.
smart clients, high achievers, perfectionists, um,
Mhm.
that does have lost a bit touch with themselves and then want to see how can life be a bit more fulfilling, and
Yeah, right.
wanna feel that they're
Mm.
not wasting their life, they're not wasting their time, they're gonna come to the end of their life and saying, I actually squeezed out every second of my life. I lived it. I
Mm.
didn't just
Great. Yeah.
autopilot through it.
Right. Yes. I think so many people do everything that they are told they should, and then they get to the end and they're like, all right, I made $1 million and now
Yeah,
I don't care what. what
great,
am, what am I
great.
supposed to
Yeah,
do?
who's gonna remember you by your dollars?
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think there's different ways of measuring how you lived your life that has nothing to do with
Hmm.
your money. Don't get me wrong, money is great. I love money. Money is an enabler for a lot of things, but it's not the only currency you can measure success or happiness or fulfillment with.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. So you help people figure those things out, huh?
Help people connect with themselves and understand
Mhm.
that there is a way to live life without suffering.
Mhm.
Even if you're working hard, you don't have to suffer. It doesn't have to be either or. It can be both and.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Great. Well, I mean, is there anything else you wanted to add for our conversation for now? Kind of leave people with maybe?
Well, I think we've covered quite a lot. I think if
Yeah, yeah.
there's someone sitting there listening to this and knowing there's this inner voice inside, getting waking up by this conversation, because this is me. I knew deep down inside that I wasn't on the right track, but I was
Mhm.
so caught up with listening to everyone around me. Like I had a job many people would dream of. I had made it.
Mm.
I had a degree. I ran my companies. I was married, or I am still married. I had bought a house. So in my head,
Mhm.
Everything was right. There was something wrong with me.
Mm.
So if you're sitting there having those thoughts, thinking,
Yeah.
I should be happy, but I'm not. There is something missing. I feel there's something within my soul.
Mm.
Then there probably is. And we probably just need to talk. And and it's nothing major. It's just a perspective shift and a mindset shift. But
Mhm.
sometimes you've blocked yourself so much you can't see that yourself. And I'm super happy to have that conversations. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time with me today, Adele. I really enjoyed speaking with you.
Thank you for all the work you're doing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. I hope we can have a follow-up again soon and,
Let's do it.
maybe catch up.
Let's do it. I'm open.
All right. Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Well, have a great weekend. It's Friday.
Yeah, you
Go
too.
enjoy.
Enjoy life. Go out, experience life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.